My name is Sarah Williams. I thought Thanksgiving would bring our family closer. Instead, it destroyed my marriage. In front of 20 relatives, my mother-in-law stood up and pointed at me. Sarah ruined our son's life. Everyone stared. Then my husband looked me in the eyes and said the 5 words that changed everything. Apologize or leave. I didn't argue. I quietly picked up my 3-year-old daughter, walked upstairs, packed 2 suitcases, and left without saying goodbye. 6 months later, the same family that humiliated me was standing outside my new house, begging me to come back. But by then, it was far too late. My name is Sarah Williams. I lived in Boston, Massachusetts, with my husband, Ethan, and our 3-year-old daughter, Lily. For 8 years, I tried to be the perfect wife. I worked full-time, cooked every meal, took care of Lily, and still smiled through every insult from Ethan's family. His mother never liked me. She believed Ethan should have married a wealthy lawyer's daughter instead. Every Thanksgiving, she found a new way to humiliate me. But this year, she crossed a line she could never erase. At dinner, she suddenly stood up, pointed at me, and loudly announced, "Sarah has never been good enough for this family." The room fell silent. I looked at Ethan, waiting for him to defend me. Instead, he looked down, then quietly said, "Mom's right." I felt my heart shatter. He looked at me again. "Apologize or leave." I didn't cry. I didn't argue. I simply stood up, took Lily's little hand, walked upstairs, and started packing. I had no idea that leaving that house would become the best decision of my life. I carried Lily to the car. She looked at me with sleepy eyes. "Mommy, are we going home?" I smiled through my tears. "We're going somewhere better." I started the engine and drove away from the only life I had known for 8 years. Not one person called. Not my husband. Not my mother-in-law. My name is Sofia Carter. I spent 3 months planning the perfect Valentine's Day surprise. Flowers, a handwritten love letter, and 2 first-class tickets to Hawaii. I walked into my husband's office, smiling, but the entire company was clapping. I thought they were celebrating Valentine's Day. I was wrong. My husband walked onto the stage, holding a diamond ring. Then he got down on one knee, in front of his female CEO. She said, "Yes." The office erupted in applause. My husband kissed her, while I stood there holding flowers meant for him. I quietly turned around, walked back to my car, and canceled every joint credit card. Then I called my attorney. 30 minutes later, my phone showed 147 missed calls, because my husband had just realized the company he thought he owned actually belonged to me. My name is Sofia Carter. I lived in Chicago, Illinois, for 7 years. I believed I had the perfect marriage. My husband, Ethan Carter, was the CEO of one of the fastest-growing tech companies in Chicago. At least, that's what everyone believed. The truth was different. 5 years earlier, when Ethan's startup was about to fail, I invested my entire inheritance, $4.8 million. I became the company's silent majority shareholder.
No interviews. No publicity.
No credit. I wanted Ethan to shine. He promised, "One day, everyone will know what you sacrificed for me." I believed him. On Valentine's Day, I wanted to surprise him. I bought white roses, his favorite chocolate, and 2 first-class tickets to Hawaii. I imagined his smile. I imagined us celebrating together. Instead, the moment I entered the company lobby, employees were cheering. Music was playing. Red balloons covered the room. I smiled. They're celebrating Valentine's Day. I was wrong. The receptionist looked nervous. Mrs. Carter, you weren't supposed to be here today. Before I could ask why, the conference room doors opened. Hundreds of employees applauded. Ethan walked onto the stage. Beside him stood the company's new chief executive officer, Olivia Bennett. She was beautiful, confident, successful. Then Ethan took a microphone. I've met someone who changed my life. My heart started racing. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a diamond ring, got down on one knee, and looked at Olivia. Will you marry me? The room exploded with applause. Olivia said, yes.
They kissed.
Everyone celebrated. No one noticed. His wife was standing in the back of the room, holding flowers meant for him. I quietly placed the flowers on a nearby table, turned around, and walked out without saying a single word. I didn't cry. Not yet. Inside my car, I opened my laptop, logged into the company's shareholder portal, and looked at one number, 82% ownership. Ethan had forgotten one small detail. He ran the company, but I owned it. I called my attorney. Prepare an emergency board meeting. Then I made one more call. Freeze every joint bank account until further notice. Within 30 minutes, my phone started ringing. Ethan, Olivia, the chief financial officer, the board chairman. I ignored every call because for the first time, they finally understood who really controlled the company. 30 minutes after I left the office, my phone showed 147 missed calls. Ethan, Olivia, the CFO, board members, even investors. I answered none of them. Instead, I drove straight to my attorney's office. Her name was Rebecca Lawson. She smiled as I walked in. Sofia, I've already prepared the documents. I nodded. Start the emergency shareholder vote. An hour later, the company's board of directors gathered online. Every executive looked confused. Ethan walked into the meeting late. He was smiling until he saw me. Sofia, what are you doing here? Before I could answer, the board chairman cleared his throat. We've called this emergency meeting because our majority shareholder has requested immediate action. Ethan laughed. Majority shareholder? Who? The chairman looked directly at me. Mrs. Sofia Carter. The room fell completely silent. Olivia's smile disappeared. Ethan stared at me. What? I calmly placed one folder on the table. Inside were the original investment contracts, bank transfer records, and share certificates. I invested $4.8 million when this company was worth almost nothing. I never asked for recognition. I only asked for loyalty. The chairman spoke again. According to company records, Mrs. Carter owns 82% of the company. Ethan's face turned pale. He whispered, "That's impossible." Rebecca slid another document toward him. "You signed every one of these agreements. You just never bothered to read them." No one said a word. I stood up. My first decision as majority shareholder. I remove Ethan Carter as CEO. Gasps filled the room. My second decision. Olivia Bennett's executive contract is terminated immediately. Olivia jumped to her feet. "You can't do this." I looked at her calmly. I already did. Security entered the conference room. They politely asked both of them to surrender their company access cards. For the first time, Ethan realized he wasn't leaving as the CEO. He was leaving as an ordinary employee. As he reached the door, he turned toward me, his eyes filled with tears. "Sofia,
I'm sorry."
I quietly replied, "You're only sorry because today you discovered the woman you betrayed was the one who built your entire future." I walked away without looking back, but I had no idea that the biggest secret was still waiting for me. The next morning, Rebecca called with shocking news. Sofia, you need to come to my office immediately. We've discovered something hidden in your late father's files. Something that would change everything. The next morning, I arrived at Rebecca Lawson's office. She looked more serious than I had ever seen her. On her desk was a sealed envelope with my late father's handwriting. She quietly pushed it toward me. Sofia, this was locked in a private vault. It was only meant to be opened if someone betrayed you. My hands started shaking. I slowly opened the envelope.
Inside
Was a handwritten letter. My dear Sofia, if you're reading this, someone you trusted has broken your heart. Tears filled my eyes. Rebecca continued reading. I always believed in Ethan, but I never trusted his ambition. That's why I protected everything in your name. I looked at Rebecca in disbelief. What does that mean? She opened another folder. Your father never gave Ethan control of the company. He placed every major patent, every trademark, and every voting right in your personal family trust. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. So even when Ethan was CEO, he never truly owned the business? Rebecca smiled. Exactly. He managed it. You owned it. At that very moment, my phone started ringing. It was the chairman of the board. Sofia, we have a problem. What happened? Ethan and Olivia are trying to convince investors to leave and start a competing company. I stayed calm. Let them. The chairman hesitated. They're telling everyone the technology belongs to them. Rebecca smiled, then handed me another document. The patents are registered in your name. They can't legally use a single product. That afternoon, Ethan held a press conference. Cameras flashed. Reporters surrounded him. He proudly announced, "We're launching a brand new company." Minutes later, his attorney rushed onto the stage, whispered something into his ear. Ethan's face turned white. The press conference ended immediately because he had just learned every patent, every software license, every trademark belonged to Sofia Carter. Without them, his new company had nothing to sell. That evening, someone rang my doorbell. I opened the door. Ethan was standing there. His expensive suit was gone. His eyes were swollen from crying. He quietly held out my old wedding ring. I was blinded by success. I lost the only person who truly believed in me. I looked at him silently, then handed him an envelope. What's this? The divorce papers. He lowered his head. Before he could speak, I softly said, "You didn't lose me the day you proposed to someone else. You lost me the moment you forgot who stood beside you before you had anything." As he slowly walked away, Rebecca called again. Sofia, the board has made a unanimous decision. They want you to become the new CEO. I closed my eyes. I never wanted power, but I knew accepting that position would change my life forever. 1 week later, the board of directors gathered for another emergency meeting. Every executive stood as I entered the room. The chairman smiled. "Mrs. Sofia Carter, the board has voted unanimously. We would like you to become the next CEO of Carter Technologies." The room erupted in applause. I looked around. This was the same boardroom where I had once quietly supported everyone from the background. Now, they were asking me to lead. I took a deep breath, then smiled. I accept. 3 months later, the company had completely transformed. Employee salaries increased. Mental health benefits were introduced. Single parents received paid family leave. The company became one of the best places to work in America. For the first time, success wasn't built on ego. It was built on respect. Meanwhile, Ethan's new business failed before it even opened. Without the patents, without investors, without trust. Everything collapsed. Olivia left him only weeks later. Reporters surrounded her outside a hotel. She simply said, I was in love with success. Not with Ethan. Ethan stood alone on the sidewalk. The cameras captured the moment. The man who once had everything had lost it all. 6 months later, I received an invitation. It was from a charity gala supporting women entrepreneurs. As I stepped onto the stage, more than 1,000 people stood and applauded. The host smiled. Tonight's leadership award goes to Sofia Carter. She continued, this woman proved that true leadership isn't about power. It's about character. Tears filled my eyes. After the ceremony, someone quietly called my name. Sofia. I turned around. It was Ethan. He looked older, humbler. He handed me a small notebook. I found this while cleaning the house. I opened it. It was the journal I had written years ago, when we were struggling to pay rent. Inside, one sentence was highlighted. If we ever become successful, I hope we never forget the people who helped us get there. Ethan lowered his head. I forgot, and I lost everything because of it. I gently closed the notebook. I truly hope you become a better man. But that journey has to happen without me. He nodded. For the first time, he didn't ask for another chance. He simply walked away. 1 year later, I stood on the balcony of our company's new headquarters in Chicago. Hundreds of employees celebrated below. I looked up at the sunset and finally felt peace. The betrayal that once broke my heart had become the reason I discovered my own strength. I smiled, not because Ethan failed, but because I no longer needed his apology to be happy. Sometimes the greatest revenge isn't taking everything from the person who hurt you. It's proving that your success was never dependent on them.